Glad you're still here. Let's get right to it. There is a Nigerian state today without a governor, deputy governor, or member of the House of Representatives. That is no news. As a matter of fact, things are most likely to stay that way for the next 6 months. On the 18th of March 2025, President Tinubu, through a live television broadcast, declared a state of emergency in Rivers State, saying his action was in response to the disturbing incidents in the state. He cited the demolition of the State House, and yet to be reviewed, the Supreme Court order directing that an appropriation bill be passed immediately that was disregarded. He also talked about the vandalization of pipelines that the governor had failed to take any action to curtail. Now, Vice-Admiral Ibokette Ibas, retired, has since taken charge as an administrator. He does not, according to the president, have powers to make laws for the state, but he may make regulations that will be considered and approved by the Federal Executive Council and promulgated by the president. Prior to this decision, allegedly, governance in Rivers State has practically paralyzed as a result of the power struggle between the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, and his predecessor, Wike, who is the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. There's been a lot of conversation on this subject. Once Lot joins the fray for a deeper analysis of the issues, the legal implication of the president's decision, and possible actions to resolve this. For this conversation, I have two guests. Abbas Idiong, he's a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst, and Dr. Zephaniah Osuyi, he's a lecturer, Department of Political Science, Joseph Ayo Babalola University in Osun State. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to skip the formalities because of time and just go straight to the question that a lot of persons have been asking. In 2013-2014, despite facing one of the gravest national security threats in Nigeria's history, that's the Boko Haram insurgency, the then President Jonathan did not suspend the governors of Borno, Yobe, or Adamawa. The military did its thing, but democratic structures remained intact. Is the appointment of a military or civilian administrator a constitutional requirement for a declaration of a state of emergency? Let's start with you, Mr. Idiong. Okay, if we don't have him, we can... Okay, Dr. Zephaniah Osuyi, please take on the question, sir.
Yeah, first of all, let us say that the suspension of elected representatives of the people is a slap to democracy. It is a slap to democracy because there is nowhere in the Constitution that mandated the president to do that. In fact, some time ago, a professor of law, Professor H.S. Sagi, once said that the reason for a declaration of a state of emergency is basically so that the government or the governor of the state can cooperate with the federal government to address the issues that gave rise to to declaring the state of emergency. So suspending the state governor who is duly elected by the people and the members of assembly is like telling us that democracy cannot actually find solutions to its faults. Yes, of course, there are bound to be problems in a democratic entity. So if democracy cannot address problems of national importance, and we have to go back to authoritarianism, bringing back the military and elevating them to a level of, we're giving them so administrator and everything. Yes, it's too bad. It's too bad. Obasanjo did it. We all picked against it. The First Republic, it was maybe Obasanjo actually took his clue from the First Republic. But even when Jonathan did that, like you rightly said, in 2013, thereabout, the elected governors were not. That is how a state of emergency should look like. That is how it should look like. The state governors, the elected representatives should be there, and they should help the federal government to find solutions to the problem. Unless there is there's an underlying notion behind the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, which the president in all this thing is not entitled to do. That is my take.
All right. While security and governance concerns, everyone agrees may justify federal intervention. Like you've rightly pointed out, the suspension of elected officials raised constitutional issues. And on this spot, currently, I mean, a lot of persons have expressed their views. The PDP, the APC, and even a group of concerned lawyers are now saying that they are heading to the courts. My question is, who can make a case to the courts on this matter that will hold water and provide a reference in the future?
Yes. Again, if we have an independent judiciary, your question seems to be, the court seems to be the only solution to this impasse. But like you can understand, the Nigerian people are not actually so confident right now in the judiciary that we have. They are not. The reason why is that some suspect judgment, you know, and judgment that does not actually follow the rules of the game has been made so far. And this has not actually bring succor to the people. So going to the court, of course, like, okay, look at what really happened. When the National House of Assembly using voice whatever to approve what the president has illegally done. So the court, what are they going to get from me? So the problem has you know, we are losing our hope. The court being the last hope of the common man is no longer there. So who is going there? What are we going to get from there? The president just have to realize that what he has done is a very pure case of illegality. And like many persons have done, even Soyinka has given his voice on it, other notable Nigerians have said that this thing is wrong, this thing is wrong. So what the president needs to do is for him to go back, call back the suspended governors, the elected members of the House of Assembly, and do the right thing. Yes, declare a state of emergency, nobody is saying you cannot do that. Let the military, you know, address the insecurity that you have cited as the reason why you are declaring the state. But then the governor be there. Let the State House of Assembly members be there. These are the elected ones we have. If we don't have representatives, those ones who are going to represent our interest, is it the military one that we are going to look at? No. Why are you telling us that, oh, John Locke is good, John Locke is good, representative government is good. And when there's a little problem, we run back to Thomas Hobbes, the state, critical state of nature. That is not good enough. So Nigeria, we can do better. We really can do better.
All right, we're really pressed for time, so I'll just go on and ask this. For political waters, at the heart of the problem in Rivers State is the unresolved or badly addressed partisan and personality clashes between the suspended governor and his estranged predecessor and political godfather, Wike. While the suspension of the governor and the state assembly may be strategically expedient, they say, the argument is it will fail to address the fundamental issues that are at stake without a concomitant suspension of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, that is true. We are saying that the problem, actually, the River State problem, forget the pipeline vandalization and that President Tinubu cited and everything. We all know that it is the quarrel or the lack of agreement between Fubara and his supposed godfather Wike that actually is the basic, the primacy of the declaration of the state of emergency. Declaring, suspending the governor, suspending the members of the House of Assembly, who of course are all political godson, you know, of Wike, and leaving Wike himself, former ex-governor Wike himself, the minister of the federal FCT, there is not good enough. So if there should be a fair, there should be something that we should be looking at. Wike too needs to be suspended from that office. Right. Otherwise, how do you address the problem that came from two persons and you have given one its punishment and the other person you just let it go? And in fact, the Attorney General of the Federation is saying that Wike has no, that is not good enough. Nigerians are watching, Nigerians are seeing what is happening. So if you are suspending Fubara, that Fubara is not able to do this, then you have to also have to extend that same disciplinary action to Wike, so that at least everybody will know that this is the case.
All right. The part hustle, some are expressing concerns as well that it may lead to the gradual return of Niger Delta militancy. Already we have former militants taking sides with the two political figures. Do you agree that this state of emergency is likely to bring about a dramatic backlash in the sustenance of the gains? I
think there's a lack. I think there's a lack of trust right now. In Rivers State, the people don't have this trust again for their government, especially for the federal government. But I seldom see a situation where the militancy can come back again. We all know that militancy, yes, their grievances and everything have really not been addressed and everything, President Yar'Adua actually did a good thing through the amnesty program, and that should be sustained and everything. But if this state of emergency continues like this, it is possible. But now I really don't see the militants coming back. No, I don't see that.
All right. Another key issue. The Supreme Court restrained the central bank from releasing federal allocations to Rivers State until the State of Assembly passes a lawful budget. In his address declaring the state of emergency, the president said his newly appointed administrator would not be able to make any laws. In effect, the interpretation is that he could not pass a budget to implement the Supreme Court judgment. But what we have is that a day after he was sworn in, the central bank, some say 48 hours or thereabout, the central bank released the withheld allocation to the administration. Is this legal? Does the president have the power to counter the Apex Court judgment without maybe obtaining an order from the court to allow him release the funds? What do you make of all these arguments?
The federal government has released the funds, I think they have released that fund, they've given it to the store administrator. The same fund they said they cannot give. I don't have any sympathy for Fubara. Yes, I don't, But at the same time, using illegality to fight illegality is something that many Nigerians are against. Releasing that fund to the store administrator is against every democratic ethos that we know. It only shows that this insecurity narrative is not really what has made the declaration of emergency to become so urgent. No, that there is a personal, a kind of interest by the presidency in Rivers State. Rivers State being one of the largest states that gives us our money from oil and everything. So that is the reason. So controlling the Rivers State money seems to be the only game here.
All right, Doctor, let me interject a bit. I understand we now have Mr. Abbas Idiong, who is a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us. I know there's been issues today. I don't know if you got the question I asked the doctor, but I'll just recap quickly. The Supreme Court ruling on central bank, restraining the central bank, releasing federal allocations to Rivers State. We know that that has now been done after the administrator was sworn in by President Tinubu. So the question I'm trying to get is this legal? Does the president have the power to counter the Apex Court judgment without maybe obtaining a court order that allows him to release the funds?
Or finally joining. What we must understand is that the Constitution cannot cover every single aspect of governance. What the president merely did was to issue a proclamation on the state of emergency. And the National Assembly has the powers to not only ratify that proclamation, but to also provide guidelines for how that state of emergency will take place and how it will be governed according to our laws. under the Constitution, by the way, where the houses of assembly cannot make laws for a state, the National Assembly is empowered to step in and make laws for that state. So if you ask me if it's legal for a sole administrator to harness the funds of a state, I would say under the law, the sole administrator is an aberration, as we know. But this particular situation requires solutions. You have people who have not been paid. You have contractors who have not been paid. Governance must go on. And between the governor and the House of Assembly, we saw that there was a paralysis of governance in that state to the extent where impeachment notices had been served on the governor. So it only makes sense that if there's a state of emergency that has been put in place, the people should not be made to suffer further from this paralysis in government. I think that while the release of funds to the sole administrator might not be ultra legal, going by our constitution, but it is necessary to keep the wheels of governance churning in Rivers State.
Mr. Idiong, I wish we had more time with you, but hopefully we can have this conversation subsequently. Thank you very much for speaking with us. And of course, Dr. Zephaniah Osuyi, we thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.